but she wears a 12.
So you had weight loss surgery. What was the operation that you had?
It's called the gastric sleeve, which simply means your stomach's really big because you stretch it out. They cut out 85% of your stomach, so you have a smaller stomach.
But how much can you still eat?
Well, I'm up to about 2 cups of food a day. I don't like to brag, but it starts
2
off.
cups of food a day?
Yeah, it's hardcore. Like at the beginning, it was maybe a cup a day. And then you feel malnourished, your hair starts to thin, and you're like, is this ever gonna even out? And it does.
Those things happened to you? That was one of the side effects?
Yeah, I talk about that in my show too, because people are like, oh, surgery, you took the easy way out. And it's like, really, want to hear how easy it is? Because there's a lot of stuff that happens throughout your whole body and your whole life.
When someone is very overweight, it is usually not just the love of food, but it is emotional eating.
Well, that's the whole challenge, because you can't overeat. It's almost like somebody forcing you to feel your feelings and not use food to deal with them. So basically, I can't have a bad day and go and eat. Hey, we'll all find a way if we really need to. You know what I mean? Like everyone, the doctor warns you, goes, you'll find a food that you can stuff down there and gain your weight back because people are uncomfortable. So I try to intervene. And some days it doesn't work. Some days I am powerless and I'll eat the cake or the waffle or whatever. But guess what? Hopefully it's less days than more.
What were the emotions that drove you to eat?
Every emotion in the world will drive you to eat. Oh, I'm happy, let's eat. I'm sad, let's eat. It's like the same reaction, So I never went to anything except food and guys. Like I always had a boyfriend, so I always had that. And it's like, oh, food. Like in my family and just in my circle, we never drank or smoked or did drugs or anything. So food was the only emotional sort of thing to hold on to.
If you want to hold a few minutes, we can hold.
Okay.
Totally. We're not really worried about time.
Okay, so how do we get a signal again? I forget.
In this show, you also talk about the men you have dated. How did they affect your self-image? How did they affect your weight problem? And were you dating enablers?
Oh,
were
my
you
God.
dating men
Yes.
who were eaters and that's why you wanted them?
Well, I talk about a guy who was 400 pounds that I dated. So it was almost like when I met him, the skies opened up because he's a guy, he likes food. Perfect combo platter. So yeah, that's one of the things. I dated guys who kind of were into it. So it wasn't anybody ever saying, maybe we should work on this together, until I met my husband, who together about a year ago, we looked at each other and said, do we want to live past 60? That would be great. Because when you meet somebody decent at 49, you want to live a little longer. Till next year, I'll probably want to kill him and myself. Oh my God, I got frosting on me. Brad, I'm taking this whole cake.
I've been looking at a lot of older pictures of you online, and when you were heavy, in most of the pictures you're sort of mugging for the camera. Now that you've lost the weight, you're very poised, you're smiling. What is that about?
I think it's more like you're so uncomfortable when you're overweight, or at least I was. Like some people can work it, and I love those people. I couldn't, so I'd have to mug it up and stuff. And also you're wearing 18 pair of Spanx. Do you know how hard that is? I mean, it's like armor, okay? So it just hurts, and you're just like, oh my God, did I pull this down? And is this showing? And you're always nervous, so you overcompensate with it. But now I almost veer towards the, hey, you know what, I'm just gonna smile. I'm just gonna be uncomfortable with it if I have to, and just sit in the uncomfortable moment, and you kind of get through.
Were you concerned at all about changing your appearance this much, and that the audience would not find you as funny?
I've never thought that, honestly, in my life.
It's no coincidence George Hamilton loves the sun. They were born in the same year.
I've always been the comic who goes to the shrink and works on myself, even though all these comics are always like, oh, I'm not funny if I get my head together. I think that's total crap. I think you're funnier if you're aware of your issues and talk about them. So yeah, no, I never thought it for a minute. But also, I was never a comic who just made fat jokes about myself. There are a few out there who, their whole act is mostly making fun of their weight. I'd always throw in something here or there, but it was more about the audience. And also, you don't worry about not being funny because that's something you have. That doesn't go away with fat.
How did it change how you feel about yourself?
Well,
did it?
Oh yeah, it definitely changed. I'm comfortable in this form because I was always thin up until I was 18, and then everything went crazy. So I always was a thin person inside. Like some people grew up heavy, like my sister grew up heavy, and I don't think it bothers her as much because that's her. She felt like herself. I just never felt like myself with the weight on. So now I'm psychologically catching up with the physique. So it's nice. I love it. You know, it's not easy to maintain. We're going to still have to work at it, but it's really cool. It's like a whole new person.